Chapter 6. Là sotto I giorni nubiosi e brevi nasce una gente a cui il morir non dole. Petrarch. Though pleased with the revenge he had taken, Onegin, noting Lenski'd left, felt all his old ennui awaken, which made poor Olga feel bereft. She too now yawns, and as she dances seeks Lenski out with furtive glances. The endless dance had come to seem to Olga like some dreadful dream. But now it's over. Supper's heeded. Then beds are made, the guests are all assigned their rooms, from entrance hall to servants' quarters. Rest is needed by everyone. Eugene has fled and driven home alone to bed. All's quiet now. Inside the parlour, the portly Mr. Pustyakov lies snoring with his portly partner. Gvozdin, Buyanov, Petushkov, and Flianov, who'd been reeling badly on dining chairs, have bedded gladly. While on the floor, Trikay's at rest in tattered nightcap and his vest. The rooms of Olga and Tatiana are filled with girls in sleep's embrace. Alone, beside the window-case, illumined sadly by Diana, poor Tanya, sleepless and in pain, sits gazing at the darkened plain. His unexpected reappearance, that momentary tender look, the strangeness of his interference with Olga, all confused and shook Tatiana's soul. His true intention remained beyond her comprehension, and jealous anguish pierced her breast, as if a chilling hand had pressed her heart, as if in awful fashion a rumbling black abyss did yawn. "I'll die," she whispers to the dawn, "but death from him is sweet compassion. Why murmur vainly? He can't give the happiness for which I live." But forward, forward, O my story! A new persona has arrived. 5 versts or so from Krasnogori, our Lenski's seat, there lived and thrived in philosophical seclusion, and does so still, have no illusion, Zaretsky. Once a rowdy clown, chief gambler and arch-rake in town, the tavern tribune and a liar, but now a kind and simple soul who plays an unwed father's role, a faithful friend, a peaceful squire, and man of honour, nothing less. Thus does our age its sins redress. Time was when flunkies in high places would praise him for his nasty grit. He could, it's true, from 20 paces shoot pistol at an ace and hit. And once, when riding battle station, he'd earned a certain reputation when in a frenzied state indeed he'd plunged in mud from Kalmuck steed, drunk as a pig, and suffered capture, a prize to make the French feel proud. Like noble Regulus, he bowed, accepting hostage bonds with rapture, in hopes that he, on charge, might squeeze 3 bottles daily from Very's. He used to banter rather neatly, could gull a fool, and had an eye for fooling clever men completely, for all to see or on the sly. Of course, not all his pranks succeeded or passed unpunished or unheeded, and sometimes he himself got bled and ended up the dunce instead. He loved good, merry disputations, could answer keenly, be obtuse, put silence cunningly to use, or cunningly start altercations, could get 2 friends prepared to fight, then lead them to the duelling site. Or else he'd patch things up between them so he might lunch with them as guest, and later secretly demean them with nasty gossip or a jest, sed alia temporal. Such sporting, with other capers such as courting, goes out of us when youth is dead, and my Zaretsky, as I've said, 'neath flowering cherries and acacias, secure at last from tempest's rage, lives out his life a proper sage, plants cabbages like old Horatius, breeds ducks and geese and oversees his children at their ABCs. He was no fool, and consequently, although he thought him lacking heart, Eugene would hear his views intently, and liked his common sense in part. He had spent some time with him with pleasure, and so was not in any measure surprised next morning when he found Zaretsky had again called round. The latter, hard upon first greeting and cutting off Eugene's reply, presented him, with gloating eye, the poet's note about a meeting. Onegin, taking it, withdrew, and by the window read it through. The note was brief in its correctness, a proper challenge or cartel. Politely, but with cold directness, it called him out, and did it well. Onegin, with his first reaction, quite curtly offered satisfaction and bade the envoy, if he cared, to say that he was quite prepared. Avoiding further explanation, Zaretsky, pleading much to do, arose and instantly withdrew. Eugene, once left to contemplation and face to face with his own soul, felt far from happy with his role, and rightly so. In inquisition with conscience as his judge of right, he found much wrong in his position. First off, he had been at fault last night to mock in such a casual fashion at tender love's still timid passion. And why not let the poet rage? A fool at 18 years of age can be excused his rash intentions. Eugene, who loved the youth at heart, might well have played a better part. No plaything of the mob's conventions or brawling boy to take offence, but man of honour and of sense. He could have shown some spark of feeling instead of bristling like a beast. He should have spoken words of healing, disarmed youth's heart, or tried at least. Too late, he thought. The moment's wasted. What's more, that duelling fox has tasted his chance to mix in this affair. That wicked gossip with his flair for gibes and all his foul dominion. He's hardly worth contempt, I know, but fools will whisper, grin and crow. So there it is, the mob's opinion, the spring with which our honours wound, the god that makes this world go round. At home, the poet, seething, paces and waits impatiently to hear. Then in his babbling neighbour races, the answer in his solemn leer. The jealous poet's mood turned festive. He'd been, till now, uncertain, restive, afraid the scoundrel might refuse or laugh it off, and through some ruse escape unscathed, the slippery devil. But now at last his doubts were gone. Next day, for sure, they'd drive at dawn out to the mill, where each would level a pistol, cocked and lifted high, to aim at temple or at thigh. Convinced that Olga's heart was cruel, Vladimir vowed he wouldn't run to see that flirt before the duel. He kept consulting watch and sun, then gave it up and finally ended outside the door of his intended. He thought she'd blush with self-reproach, grow flustered when she saw his coach, but not at all. As blithe as ever, she bounded from the porch above and rushed to greet her rhyming love like giddy hope. So gay and clever, so frisky carefree with her grin, she seemed the same she'd always been. "Why did you leave last night so early?" was all that Olga, smiling, said. Poor Lenski's muddled mind was swirling, and silently he hung his head. All jealousy and rage departed before that gaze so open-hearted, before that soft and simple trust, before that soul so bright and just. With misty eyes he looks on sweetly and sees the truth. She loves him yet. Tormented now by deep regret, he craves her pardon so completely. He trembles, hunts for words in vain. He's happy now, he's almost sane. Once more, in solemn, rapt attention before his darling Olga's face, Vladimir hasn't heart to mention the night before and what took place. It's up to me, he thought, to save her. I'll never let that foul deprave her, corrupt her youthful heart with lies, with fiery praise and heated sighs, nor see that noxious worm devour my lovely lily, stalk and blade, nor watch this 2-day blossom fade when it has yet to fully flower. All this, dear readers, meant, in fine, I'm duelling with a friend of mine. Had Lenski known the deep emotion that seared my Tanya's wounded heart, or had Tatiana had some notion of how these two had grown apart, or that by morn they'd be debating for which of them the grave lay waiting, then perhaps the love she bore might well have made them friends once more. But no one knew her inclination, or chanced upon the sad affair. Eugene had kept his silent air, Tatiana pined in isolation, and only Nanny might have guessed, but her old wits were slow at best. All evening Lenski was abstracted, remote one moment, gay the next. But those on whom the muses acted are ever thus. With brow perplexed he'd sit at clavichord intently, and play but chords, or turning gently to Olga, he would whisper low, "I'm happy, love, it's true, you know." But now it's late, and time for leaving. His heart, so full of pain, drew tight, and as he bid the girl good night, he felt it break with desperate grieving. "What's wrong?" She peered at him intent. "It's nothing," and away he went. On coming home, the youth inspected his pistols, then he put them back. Undressed, by candle, he selected a book of Schiller's from the rack. But only one bright image holds him, one thought within his heart enfolds him. He sees before him, wondrous fair, his incandescent Olga there. He shuts the book, and with decision takes up his pen. His verses ring with all the nonsense lovers sing, and feverish with lyric vision, he reads them out like one possessed, like drunken Delvig at a fest. By chance, those verses haven't vanished. I have them, and I quote them here. "Ah, whither, whither are ye banished, my springtime's golden days so dear? What fate will morning bring, my lyre? In vain my searching eyes inquire, for all lies veiled in misty dust. No matter, fate's decree is just, and whether pierced, I fall anointed, or arrow passes by, all's right. The hours of waking and of night come each in turn as they're appointed, and blessed with all its cares the day, and blessed the dark that comes to stay. The morning star will gleam tomorrow, and brilliant day begin to bloom, while I, perhaps, descend in sorrow, the secret refuge of the tomb. Slow Lethe then, with grim insistence, will drown my memory's brief existence. Of me the world shall soon grow dumb, but thou, fair maiden, wilt thou come to shed a tear in desolation, and think at my untimely grave? He loved me, and for me he gave his mournful life in consecration. Beloved friend, sweet friend, I wait. O come, I am thy mate." He wrote thus, limply and obscurely. We say romantically, although that's not romanticism, surely, and if it is, who wants to know? But then, at last, as it was dawning, with drooping head and frequent yawning, upon the modish word ideal, Vladimir gently dozed for real. But sleep had hardly come to take him off to be charmed by dreams and cheered, when in that silent room appeared his neighbour, calling out to wake him. "It's time to rise! Past 6! Come on! I'll bet Onegin woke at dawn!" But he was wrong. That idle sinner was sleeping soundly even then. But now the shades of night grow thinner. The cock hails vesper once again, yet still Onegin slumbers deeply. But now the sun climbs heaven steeply, and gusting snowflakes flash and spin, but still Onegin lies within and hasn't stirred. Still slumber hovers above his bed and holds him fast. But now he slowly wakes at last, draws back the curtains and his covers, looks out, and sees with some dismay he'd better leave without delay. He rings in haste, and with a racket his French valet, Guillot, runs in with slippers and a dressing jacket and fresh new linen from the bin. Onegin, dressing in a flurry, instructs his man as well to hurry. They're leaving for the duelling place, Guillot's to fetch the pistol case. The sleigh's prepared, his pacing ceases. He climbs aboard, and off they go. They reach the mill. He bids Guillot to bring Lepage's deadly pieces. Then has the horses on command removed to where 2 oaklings stand. Impatient, but in no great panic, Vladimir waited near the dam. Meanwhile, Zaretsky, born mechanic, was carping at the millstone's cam. Onegin, late, made explanation. Zaretsky frowned in consternation. "Good God, man! Where's your second? Where?" In duels, a purist doctrinaire, Zaretsky favoured stout reliance on proper form. He had not allowed dispatching chaps just anyhow, but called for strict and full compliance with rules, traditions, ancient ways, which we, of course, in him should praise. "My second?" said Eugene directly. "Why, here he is, Monsieur Guillot, a friend of mine, whom you, correctly, will be quite pleased to greet, I know. Though he's unknown and lives obscurely, he's still an honest chap, most surely." Zaretsky bit his lip, well vexed. Onegin turned to Lenski next. "Shall we begin?" "At my insistence." Behind the mill, without a word. And while the honest chap conferred with our Zaretsky at a distance and sealed the solemn compact fast, the foes stood by with eyes downcast. The foes. How long has bloodlust parted and so estranged these former friends? How long ago did they, warm-hearted, share meals and pastimes, thoughts and ends, and now, malignant in intention, like ancient foes in mad dissension, as in a dreadful senseless dream, they glower coldly as they scheme in silence to destroy each other? Should they not laugh while yet there's time, before their hands are stained with crime? Should each not part once more as brother? But enmity among their class holds shame in savage dread, alas. The gleaming pistols wake from drowsing. Against the ramrods mallets pound. The balls go in each bevelled housing. The first sharp hammer clicks resound. Now streams of greyish powder settle inside the pans. Screwed fast to metal, the jagged flints are set to go. Behind a nearby stump, Guillot takes up his stand in indecision. The duellists shed their cloaks and wait. Zaretsky paces off their fate at 30 steps with fine precision. Then leads each man to where he'll stand, and each takes pistol into hand. "Approach at will." Advancing coldly, with quiet, firm and measured tread, not aiming yet, the foes took boldly the first 4 steps that lay ahead, 4 fateful steps. The space decreasing, Onegin then, while still not ceasing his slow advance, was first to raise his pistol with a level gaze. 5 paces more, while Lenski waited to close one eye and, only then, to take his aim. And that was when Onegin fired. The hour fated has struck at last. The poet stops, and silently his pistol drops. He lays a hand, as in confusion, on breast, and falls. His misted eyes express not pain, but death's intrusion. Thus, slowly down a sloping rise, and sparkling in the sunlight's shimmer, a clump of snow will fall and glimmer. Eugene, in sudden chill, despairs, runs to the stricken youth, and stares, calls out his name. No earthly power can bring him back. The singer's gone, cut down by fate at break of dawn. The storm has blown. The lovely flower has withered with the rising sun. The altar fire is out and done. He lay quite still and past all feeling. His languid brow looked strange at rest. The steaming blood poured forth, revealing the gaping wound beneath his breast. One moment back, a breath's duration, this heart still throbbed with inspiration. Its hatreds, hopes, and loves still beat. Its blood ran hot with life's own heat. But now, as in a house deserted, inside it all is hushed and stark, gone silent and forever dark. The window boards have been inserted, the panes chalked white. The owners fled, but where, God knows, all trace is dead. With epigrams of spite and daring, it's pleasant to provoke a foe. It's pleasant when you see him staring, his stubborn, thrusting horns held low, unwillingly within the mirror, ashamed to see himself the clearer. More pleasant yet, my friends, if he shrieks out in stupid shock. That's me. Still pleasanter is mute insistence on granting him his resting place by shooting at his pallid face from some quite gentlemanly distance. But once you've had your fatal fun, you won't be pleased to see it done. And what would be your own reaction if with your pistol you'd struck down a youthful friend for some infraction, a bold reply, too blunt a frown, some bagatelle, when you'd been drinking? Or what if he himself, not thinking, had called you out in fiery pride? Well, tell me, what would you, inside, be thinking of, or merely feeling, were your good friend before you now, stretched out, with death upon his brow, his blood by slow degrees congealing, too deaf and still to make reply to your repeated, desperate cry? In anguish, with his heart forsaken, the pistol in his hand like lead, Eugene stared down at Lenski, shaken. His neighbour spoke. "Well then, he's dead." The awful word, so lightly uttered, was like a blow. Onegin shuddered, then called his men and walked away. Zaretsky, carefully, then lay the frozen corpse on sleigh, preparing to drive the body home once more. Sensing the dreadful load they bore, the horses neighed, their nostrils flaring, and wet the metal bit with foam, then, swift as arrows, raced for home. You mourn the poet, friends, and rightly, scarce out of infant clothes, and killed. Those joyous hopes that bloomed so brightly, now doomed to wither unfulfilled. Where now the ardent agitation, the fine and noble aspiration of youthful feeling, youthful thought, exalted, tender, boldly wrought? And where are stormy love's desires, the thirst for knowledge, work and fame, the dread of vice, the fear of shame? And where are you, poetic fires, you cherished dreams of sacred worth and pledge of life beyond this earth. It may be he was born to fire the world with good, or earn at least a gloried name. His silenced lyre might well have raised, before it ceased, a call to ring throughout the ages. Perhaps upon the world's great stages he might have scaled a lofty height. His martyred shade, condemned to night, perhaps has carried off forever some sacred truth, a living word, now doomed by death to pass unheard. And in the tomb his shade shall never receive our race's hymns of praise, nor hear the ages bless his days. Or, maybe, he was merely fated to live amid the common tide, and as his years of youth abated, the flame within him would have died. In time he might have changed profoundly, have quit the muses, married soundly, and in the country he'd have worn a quilted gown and cuckold's horn, and happy he'd have learned life truly. At 40 he'd have had the gout, have eaten, drunk, grown bored and stout, and so decayed, until he duly passed on in bed, his children round, while women wept and doctors frowned. However, reader, we may wonder, the youthful lover's voice is stilled. His dreams and songs all rent asunder, and he, alas, by friend lies killed. Not far from where the youth once flourished, there lies a spot the poet cherished. 2 pine trees grow there, roots entwined. Beneath them quiet streamlets wind, meandering from the nearby valley. And there the ploughman rests at will, and women reapers come to fill their pitchers in the stream and dally. There, too, within a shaded nook, a simple stone adjoins the brook. Sometimes a shepherd sits there waiting, till on the fields spring rains have passed, and sings of vulgar fishers, plaiting his simple coloured shoes of bast. Or some young girl from town, who's spending her summer in the country mending, when headlong and alone on horse she races down the meadow course, will draw her leather reins up tightly to halt just there her panting steed, and lifting up her veil she'll read the plain inscription, skimming lightly, and as she reads a tear will rise, and softly dim her gentle eyes. And at a walk she'll ride, dejected, into the open field to gaze, her soul, despite herself, infected by Lenski's brief, ill-fated days. She'll wonder too, did Olga languish, her heart consumed with lasting anguish, or did the time of tears soon pass? And where's her sister now, poor lass? And where that gloomy, strange betrayer, the modish beauty's modish foe, that recluse from the world we know, the youthful poet's friend and slayer? In time, I promise, I'll not fail to tell you all in full detail. But not today. Although I cherish my hero, and of course I vow to see how he may wane or flourish, I'm not quite in the mood just now. The years to solemn prose incline me. The years chase playful rhyme behind me, and I, alas, I must confess, pursue her now a good deal less. My pen has lost its disposition to mar the fleeting page with verse. For other, colder dreams I nurse, and sterner cares now seek admission, and mid the hum and hush of life they haunt my soul with dreams of strife. I've learned the voice of new desires, and come to know a new regret. The first within me light no fires, and I lament old sorrows yet. Old dreams, where has your sweetness vanished? And where has youth, glib rhyme, been banished? Can it be true, its bloom has passed, has withered now at last? Can it be true, my heydays ended, all elegiac play aside, that now indeed my spring has died, as I in jest so oft pretended? And is there no return of youth? Shall I be 30 soon, in truth? And so life's afternoon has started, as I must now admit, I see. But let us then as friends be parted, my sparkling youth, before you flee. I thank you for your host of treasures, for pain and grief as well as pleasures, for storms and feasts and worldly noise, for all your gifts and all your joys, my thanks to you. With you I've tasted amid the tumult and the still life's essence, and enjoyed my fill. Enough. Clear-souled and far from wasted, I start upon an untrod way to take my rest from yesterday. But one glance back. Farewell, you bowers, sweet wilderness, in which I spent impassioned days and idle hours, and filled my soul with dreams content. And you, my youthful inspiration, come, stir the bleak imagination, enrich the slumbering heart's dull load, more often visit my abode. Let not the poet's soul grow bitter, or harden and congeal alone, to turn at last to lifeless stone amid this world's deceptive glitter, this swirling swamp in which we lie and wallow, friends, both you and I.